the origin story of Whiskey When We're Dry actually begins with another book, which I started and wrote on for years after Holding Wise. And it never went anywhere, but boy, I tried to get it somewhere. I called it Finding Bigfoot. It was like not a book that was going to work out, but its themes were about American masculinity, American violence, and sort of the origins and manifestations of that. And I found myself, when I was writing this book, being really drawn to people like first responders and veterans, people who had knowingly given up some of their own, I don't know what the right word is, but given up something of themselves for the betterment of other people. And I was really drawn to these characters. And so anyway, that novel was failing. It was going nowhere. And it was going nowhere for years. And ultimately the problem I now know is I was trying to do too much. I was trying to have my sights too high, and it was just sort of spinning out. So I went for a walk one night to think that book through, and I was listening to my iPod because this was like 2009 or 10 or something, and a Gillian Welch song came on. The song is Tennessee by Gillian Welch, and in it there's a lyric, I'm sorry. The song that I heard in my ear was Ruination Day by Gillian Welch. And in it, there's that song is about American history. It's about, there's a lyric about Lincoln's assassination. There's a lyric about the Titanic, which is, European history as well. And these really traumatic, sad things. And there's also this rhythm to that song that I knew from being a kid. I grew up around horses, and that rhythm is the rhythm of riding a horse, down a trail. The horse isn't in a hurry, you're not in a hurry, and you're just both, doing this. And that is what the song felt like. And so as that song was playing, the weather turned around me, and the rain here in Oregon turned to snow just all of a sudden. It was about 11 o'clock at night. I'm the only person out on the street. And the song ended. And in the silence after it, I heard this voice in my ear. And the voice said, I heard it said, God moves on the water. I've looked for him there. My thirst grows with his flood. And I was like, whoa. There's a whole novel right there. I just ran home and I wrote those lines, and the book just started to pour from me in that voice. And I didn't know who the character was. I didn't know the gender of the character, or, the gender complications of the character. I didn't know that Jesse had a brother. I didn't know any of that stuff. I was just hearing this voice and letting it come. Looking back, now I know that this was probably influenced. I lost both my grandmothers in a year span. And I realized, oh, man, I have all these questions I want to ask them, and now I can't, right? And so I think this voice was important to me because it wasn't my grandmother in any way, shape, or form, but it allowed me to sort of communicate with this past time, and that meant something for me emotionally. But as I did research and I started to soak up, the sponge started to soak up influences. I was finding all these characters in the West who had transitioned. There wasn't that word transitioned, but there were people who were born women who became men in the American West, like Charlie Parkhurst. And there were also all these women who were not the bonnet wearing woman from the John Wayne movies, these badass women of the West who ran ranches and chased off bears and, kept their kids fed when their husbands disappeared drinking, And yeah, so I became just fascinated by that. And as the book grew, I came to realize that Jesse had a brother. He was an older brother. I'm the older brother. I have a little brother. There's no sisters with us. And somehow I found it really easy to write a younger sibling. Again, because I think it's easier for me to occupy the other as opposed to write myself. And so that book just sort of grew. I didn't plot anything. And it just, came out. I really felt like I was channeling Jesse Harney.